All right, everybody, welcome to. Well, did I come on? Am I on? I think I'm on now. All right, welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. I'm your host, Alan Orick, and Sean had a small emergency he had to deal with. He said he was going to be here as soon as he could. So, in the meantime, how's everybody's heart doing today? If you were like me, you went through the emotional roller coaster of this game is over. We got it won after Ted Ginn's 40-yard reception, and then the next play was Alvin Kamara's 12-yard run. You went to that to, okay, let's just run the clock down, kick the field goal, get the hell out of here. 55 seconds left, no timeouts. Just keep them in bounds, let them get out of bounds, to, oh my God, what the hell happened? And then, how can you do that? As the Texans take actually tied the game 27 all. Then the missed extra point, and you're going, yeah, we're going to go to overtime. Thank God. Oh my God, another friggin' penalty? We're going to lose this game by a point after all this, and then comes Drew Brees. And it reminds me a lot of the Washington game. If you guys remember the Washington game from 2017, not the one where Drew Brees set the record. I'm talking about the one where Washington was just beating us and beating us and beating us, and all of a sudden, Brees caught fire. The Saints came back. We got to overtime. We won the game. I'm sorry, before we went to overtime, we had that awesome Alvin Kamara run. And then the Alvin Kamara 2-point conversion after the touchdown. And it was just one of those things where you're just like, oh my God, don't ever leave a Saints game early. Don't ever leave a Saints game early. You never know what's going to happen. So that's how it felt after the ball game was over. It was like, oh man, I'm done. That was only week one. That was only week one. So what we're going to talk about tonight is, of course, we're going to go over what the good things and the bad things that we saw. Some of it, of course, is not what as bad as you think it is, and some of it is not as good as what you think it is. Uh, Mike Detillier said this. I want to say 2 years ago, 3 years ago now. I'm having a memory gap here, but basically that what you see in the first couple of weeks of the regular season is kind of like the last two preseason games. Um, you see, yeah, and Jerry, I agree with you. I was at that game. I was at the Washington game. It was unbelievable. It really was. We were going nuts. And two friends of ours left when the Redskins took that final touchdown. I think it was a Sprinkles. I just remember the dude's name was Sprinkles because he did the whole thing with, whatever. But yeah, they left with 5 minutes left, like, oh, this game's over. There's no way they're coming back. So yeah, it was a very fun game to watch. And I think I still have it on DVR. That's how much I love that game. But anyway, Mike Detillier said that for the first couple weeks of the regular season, because teams, especially now the new CBA agreement, where they limit the amount of two-a-day practices, limit the amount of padded practices, and then the way they do preseason games today, where the starters hardly play at all. Drew Brees only had one series this entire preseason. Excuse me, his fewest amount of snaps in a preseason year ever. But the way they do these things, that the first couple of games are almost like a preseason, except they count because the team kind of has to get used to one another, and one side or the other side of the ball is better than how they're going to be during the regular season. That makes sense. Um, it was one of the best Saints game I've ever seen in my life. The best game I ever saw in my life because of this. I'm reading Jerry's comments here. One of the best games I ever saw in my life because the stakes were so much higher, was the Miami San Diego game in 1981, that playoff game, because that was a double overtime game. I mean, that was an overtime game. It was just that was an unbelievable game. But you're right. This is probably one of the best games I've ever seen. This one we just had. But anyway, what I was getting ready to say, because I'm reading the chat comments as we do this. Um, so as a result, either the offense or the defense of a team looks really, really good or really, really dominant until you get to that third and fourth regular season game, and then things kind of start settling down, and you start to get a true image of the team. And if you think about 2017, where we lost the first two games, then we go to England, beat Miami in England, and then come back and win the next game. So now we're 2-2. Those two games, and I think the Detroit game was next, so the Detroit game might have been the second game, but those two games really gave us an indication of what that 2017 Saints team was going to be like. Same with last year. We looked terrible in the opener last year against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We don't look much better the week after against the Cleveland Browns. We lose the Tampa Bay game. The Browns game we win only because the kicker was terrible. And then the third game, we started seeing more like what we expected to see. Then the Giants game, the fourth game, okay, now now Kamara's rolling. Now the offense is clicking. Now we're starting to see more things. So I guess what I'm saying is they're going to be cliffhangers. Houston is a very good team. Houston has some weapons, but don't panic and think, "Oh my God, this defense is not going to be as good as it was last year." Oh my God, we're leaning way too much on Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas. Oh, there is Mr. Sean. How you doing, Sean?
Doing good, man. Doing good. My heart has just about got back to my normal heart rate. How about yourself? How are you doing tonight, man?
We're doing good. I was just talking about how, first off, we had to have the defibrillators working for us, and how those last 2 minutes of the game, a lot like the game we shall not speak of in 2011 in Candlestick Park, was probably one of the most exciting endings of a Saints game in their franchise history. You went from after the Ted Ginn touchdown, and then Ted Ginn 40-yard reception, then the first down from Alvin Kamara to, oh, this game's over. We got this locked up, to, okay, let's just run the clock out, kick the field goal. This game's over. They got 55 seconds, 75 yards. They got to score a touchdown. To, oh my God, how did you let him catch it? Oh my God, how did you do it? Where were you? Why did you let them do this? And then they missed the extra point. Oh, but there's a penalty. So they get the extra point. So we're not going to go to overtime. Then this is going to be the worst loss in Saints history. And then Breeze goes to work, kick that field goal, and you feel great again. And you're just going, oh my God,
Yeah.
win.
If you remember, you and I were messaging back and forth during the game,
Yeah.
and on the last drive before the Texans scored their final touchdown, I told you we need one more first down.
Oh, yeah. And I agree with you. I wanted one
Yeah.
more first down. I say this all the time, and you know this. I don't trust defense to close out a game. I need my offense to close out the game.
Yes. Yes.
I'd much rather.
I've told people all day today, this game, the last 2 minutes of this game reminded me so much of that Garrett Hartley NFC Championship game.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, for the Saints, obviously haven't won a season opener since, I believe, 2013.
Yep.
For them to get, especially with everyone in the division going down on Sunday, to get that leg up, to get the season started off on the right foot. Obviously, the stakes were were not go to the Super Bowl or not, but for Saints fans, this needed to be a game where you got to understand, outside of preseason, the last real football that took place in this building was the no call, and that's not the the vibe that you want to carry forward. You
No.
don't want the heartbreak of the no call compounded with the heartbreak of losing this game the way it looked like it was going to be lost until till Breeze just was surgical.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you don't want that because, you know, you want to get off on the right foot. You want to make a statement that, we are not going to take a step back. That we don't have an NFC Championship game hangover. You really needed to come out, especially this part of the season. I mean, we're looking at, I got my little schedule here. We're looking at Houston at home, Los Angeles on the road, the Seahawks on the road, and Dallas at home. Those first four games. If you're starting out 1-3 or 0-4, that's a huge hole to dig out of. You needed to get, this was a win. This was one of those games where you circle it in the beginning of the season saying, okay, this is a must win. Of course, all your divisional games are must wins. At Chicago's a must win. Teams that you probably will have to compete with for playoff spots, including the Rams and the Seahawks and the Cowboys. You need to have those games are must wins, so you can you have a shot at home field advantage throughout the playoffs, or at least that second seed.
Well, for the season to have started off the way that it did, obviously is a good thing. But you've got to bear in mind that the road only goes uphill from here because you have what is probably going to be, at least at this early stage of the season, probably going to be the most emotion filled thing that you could imagine having to go to Los Angeles for that game on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
And there's all the sidebars and the storylines going into that redemption, this, that, and the other. None of that really makes, in the grand scheme of things, makes very much difference at all. But you needed to get off on the right foot. You don't want to drag a 0-1 record into Los Angeles or the way that game is going to be played.
Good. Yeah. Exactly. Because that game's already has enough emotions on it.
Yeah.
Because if you lose that game, if we lose Sunday, then all the Rams fans are gonna be like, "See, it doesn't matter about the no call. You would have lost anyway." Or the whole, well, yeah, the Saints just aren't as good as the Rams. They can bitch all they want, but they really aren't as good as the Rams because even though it's a new season, they're still going to say and accuse the Saints of making a mountain out of a molehill with the no call. So it's just it's one of those kind of things that if you go in there 0-1 and you lose that game, then you're kind of pretty much, as far as the media is concerned, out of the playoff picture. You get the whole stat of how many 0-2 teams have gone on to make the playoffs, and it's very few. It's only the Saints and the Chargers, I think, have done it. How many 0-2 teams win a division? How many 0-2 teams do this, do this? You don't want to be in that. You don't want to be in that situation, especially being 0-2 and going into Seattle the following week. Another house of horrors for us.
Yeah.
And one thing real quick, and I know we want to talk some more about the game from last night, but one thing real quick, I don't think people realize this. The Saints have not won in the Mausoleum, the LA Coliseum, since 1979. That's
Well, you're just a ray of sunshine, aren't you?
well, they've only won twice there too. That's what's even worse. They won in
Yeah,
1978 and 1979 because in 1980 the Rams moved to Anaheim where the Angels used to play,
yeah,
and so we won a lot more games there. So the years they were in the Coliseum, the 60s and the 70s, the Saints were terrible. So they normally didn't win there anyway. But our first trip back was what, 2 years ago,
yes,
2017? Yeah, our
yes,
first trip back, and we lost there.
yeah. Well, you know, as far as last night goes, obviously you're ecstatic to get the win,
Mhm.
um, but you want to, like I said a minute ago, the thing that I feel like the point that needs to be driven home is the fact that you can't just stand pat on the way that you won this game or the way that it was played because you're looking basically my breakdown of the whole game was you had three terrible quarters and then you had one quarter of really hard or yeah one quarter of really hard football.
Yeah, and this was what I was talking about right before you came on. It's a bit of an illusion the first couple of games because of the CBA limiting the amount of two-a-day practice you can have in the training camp, because of the few amount of padded practices you can have, and because the way they play preseason today, um, starters get very little time together. And even though almost everybody is back from last year, you don't just pick up 6 or 8 months after you were last playing together in January. You just don't pick that up and just go right back to work again. It takes time to get that timing right, to get used to the hits, get used to the speed of the game, and all of these things. So the first couple of weeks of the season, a little bit misleading as far as how good teams are and how bad teams are. Uh,
Yeah, absolutely.
I
I would venture to say that with maybe the exception of the third preseason game, one series,
mhm.
this is probably the first time that those 11 guys on offense and those 11 guys on defense have taken meaningful snaps.
Yeah, and have tackled like it matters.
Yeah,
Because you don't even tackle in practice anymore. You kind of wrap up and hold up, and then they blow the whistle. You don't bring
and
people to the
I
ground.
would like to point out that that was sorely missing last night. I saw arm tackles, I
Hmm.
saw whiffs.
And you,
Our defense to be where it was in
mhm,
January, for it to have played that first half like they did last night
mhm.
was really sad.
Yeah, and again, and it's not just the Saints game. I gleefully watched the Atlanta Falcons Minnesota game. That's the game we had on here in New Orleans on Fox. And I mean, first play from scrimmage, the Vikings sack Matt Ryan. 3 plays later is the blocked punt. Next series, Matt Ryan throws an interception. Um, for 3 quarters, oh no, I was praying. There was no way he was going to do this, but it was 28-0. The Falcons are driving and they stall in the red zone. I'm like, oh, please kick the field goal. For the love of God, please kick that field goal. No, they went for it. They were going to go for the touchdown. There was no way that coach was going to have, for any length of time, 28-3 is the score. There's just no way. There was no way. And you could, I was up following Twitter, and every Saints fan is like, oh, please, kick the field goal, kick the field goal. You've got to kick that field goal. The Falcon fans are like, no, no, for the love of God, don't.
I messaged our friend Josh
Hmm.
that covers the Falcons for our show. I messaged him after the game, and he said that was really tragic. And I said, "So, who are you guys looking at to be your next coach?"
Well, Falcons Twitter was all about firing him, that's for sure.
Well,
They-
you and I have discussed it before going into this season, and we never did really break down the NFC South the way that
No,
we have in years past
no.
going into the season. But I really believe that going into the season, uh, half of the coaches in our division are going to be on the hot seat, and Dan Quinn and Riverboat Ron.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with that.
They're gonna have to do something, or else they're going to be looking. And the only reason that you won't say that about the Buccaneers is because they have a first year head coach in Bruce Arians.
A proven head coach. They have fired somebody after a year. They have done
Yeah,
that. But no, they're going
they
to.
did that to poor Levy.
Yeah, they are going. They are going to stick it out with Arians. I think the person that's in trouble really is Jameis Winston. Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
this is his audition, and if he fails it, and looks like he's going to, it's going to be a one and done year for him. He'll be gone, and they're gonna that team is looking at rebuilding that entire roster.
well, you almost have to. I mean, obviously, a coach with the tenure and the pedigree that Arians has, he's going to give uh, uh, Winston. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
completely drew a blank. He's going to give Winston enough rope to hang himself, but he's not going to risk his job to save Winston. No coach is
Absolutely.
ever going to do that. Generally speaking, when a new head coach comes in, if there's not immediate success, it's about a 2 year window before the coach brings in his own guy to be under center.
Well, and that's exactly it. With Tampa, at least, um, Winston wasn't drafted by Arians. That's not Arians' guy. This is an audition to see whether or not he's going to be his guy. But for the most part, it's just going to be, you know what, we're just going to play out this season, see what we got, and then we're going to start building from there. And if it
Yeah,
means
blow it
get,
up and start over.
yeah, I mean, there's pieces on that team. Don't get me wrong, there are pieces that he likes, and they are going to be more competitive than what you saw, Sunday. Just like Atlanta is going to be better than what you saw on Sunday. But
Yeah,
the question for Atlanta, and more so than Tampa, is you have to be competing for that division title. If you're not competing for that division title, if by week, I lost my count there. Let me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, by week 9 and 10, when you start playing your divisional games, and Atlanta's not in position, so those divisional games to really matter. Yeah, I can see this being Quinn's last year. I know the fans want to drive Dimitrov out. They don't like him at all, the general manager. Um, so Atlanta's got more talent than any of the other teams in the division, especially on offense. Um,
I think that we both agree. When it comes to the other three teams in our division, it's not a lack of talent that is the issue with these teams. I
mhm.
mean, Carolina, for better or worse, you're going to get at least a 500 uh, starting point with Cam Newton. And you've got McCaffrey now, and you're developing a stronger defense than you've had since you were in the Super Bowl. Atlanta, you're not talking about a lack of talent. You've got one of the best quarterbacks in the league. You've got probably one of them, when healthy, one of the most talented defenses that anybody has assembled. But uh, there again, it all comes back to the coach. If you have the talent and you're not winning games, that's on the coach.
Well, here's the thing with it when it comes to Atlanta. I promise we're going to stop talking about these teams. We just didn't get a chance to talk much about them before the season started. Um, that with the Atlanta Falcons, they have an undersized defense. Their defense is built on speed, and Jones, the middle linebacker, he epitomizes what they look for in that defense. And what you saw with the Vikings, and the Vikings don't have a very good offensive line, but what you saw with the Vikings was them controlling the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball And as a result, they were able to run the football at Atlanta. Atlanta had a hard time dealing with running the football against them. Um, and their defensive line controlled Atlanta's offensive line. So Atlanta wasn't scoring, nor were they controlling the clock. So that small, fast defense was out there a lot. And they got tired. They got worn down. And that really kind of doomed that team. And that is the problem with the philosophy of a coach like Dan Quinn, which I'm not complaining about. But Dan Quinn has built this team based on his offense being able to put up a lot of points and his defense and because his offense puts a lot of points on the board, makes you one dimensional. His defense plays that one dimension. We're going to rush the passer. We're going to force turnovers to get our offense more opportunities at the ball. We're going to score a lot of points, and you're going to have to throw to keep up, and that's how you're going to stop us. And if you can control both sides of the line of scrimmage, Atlanta's in trouble. Atlanta's in big trouble. Carolina, on the other hand, Carolina is built much more for power football, but they've got an undersized, incredibly fast and strong tailback and a quarterback who thinks he's a running back at times.
Yeah, so, well, I don't hold that on Cam nearly as much as I do that coaching staff.
Yeah.
Every season for the past, since they were in the Super Bowl, every season they're taking years off his career because they use him in such a way, and I'm talking about Cam Newton. They use him in such a way that it's not necessarily that you don't have other guys that you can use in the skill positions. It's just that you depend so much on Cam and his ability to run the ball. And every time he runs the ball, he's taking a shot.
Yeah.
He's taking a hit. And over a period of time, especially against the physical teams, in this division to begin with, every time you play these big, tough, physical defenses, that's going to start taking a toll on you eventually. And if you've noticed, in the past several seasons, Cam gets hurt, misses a game or two. Next season, he misses a few more, and then during the off season, he has shoulder surgery.
Yeah.
Which, generally speaking, for a quarterback is the precursor to retirement.
Well, and what Ron Rivera wants to do is to build a team that's built on power running, power football, behind a good, big, strong offensive line, and then his defense just pounds you into submission. And they're going to grind the clock, control the ball. Cam Newton's going to throw the ball deep occasionally, but for the most part, it's just going to be they're coming at you with a bunch of different running backs, power guys, speed guys, so it's inside and outside, all that kind of, old school football, old school physical football. And what's happened is that offensive line has gotten bad over the years. They've lost the old two-for running back system they used to have with, what's his name now? I'm drawing a blank on their names.
I know who you're talking about.
The one who wore the pink dreads and got in trouble. His mom died of cancer, but the league says, "Oh, well, you can't have pink hair. You can have pink cleats and pink everything else. Only in October. You can't do it the rest of the time." So he got in trouble and he ended up finished his career with Pittsburgh. But anyway, it'll come to me in a minute. But that was when they were most successful and their defense was very strong. So, and the reason why I'm talking about all this stuff, or kind of steered the conversation this way, here we saw last night with the Saints, people were really concerned about that defensive line for the Saints. We got 6 sacks, but we also got gashed for 180 yards on the ground. We would stop them on first and second down, but then we were giving up third. They almost had 50%, I think, on third down conversions. I think
that sounds about right.
They were like 7 of 13 or something like that on third down. So people were freaking out over, saying our secondary sucks. Our defensive line isn't as strong as it was before. Keep in mind that Sheldon Rankins isn't there. David Onyemata was serving a suspension. Mario Edwards was not available. You had really a second-year player in Marcus Davenport playing a lot of the three technique. Not Malcolm Brown. Andre Brown. Is it Malcolm Brown? No, Andre Brown. Andre Brown. I'm sorry. The guy that we got from New England. That was his first game with Cam Jordan and Davenport side by side, where they played the entire game together. They rotating in a guy they signed off the practice squad last, Friday, I think, or Saturday. They signed him. So he'd been practicing the team, but he was a practice squad player in Lowen. So it was a defensive line in transition. Okay. So don't panic about the ability to stop the run yet. Let's start getting people healthy. Let's start getting people together. And then as we get into the meat of the season, when we start playing Tampa Bay, Jacksonville, the Bears, the Cardinals, the Falcons, that time in October, end of September, early October, we're going to start seeing the real Saints defense.
I wasn't nearly as concerned with the first level of the defense as I was the second and third levels, especially the secondary. There was something that was just completely off about our secondary last night.
Mm-hmm.
And I refreshed the paint on my release PJ sign. PJ is a liability to me. I know the run support. I know the playing the new. I get all of that, but every time he's in a crucial situation, he's going to commit a penalty. He's going to do something stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I was so frustrated last night. Now, the other side of that coin is you were playing arguably one of the very best wide receivers in the league last night in DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
And he helped you to beat him several times. What was it, like 4 drops, maybe?
Yeah.
And, Tate, always, not Tate. Wait a minute. The number 15 for Houston.
Fuller?
Fuller. I was thinking Tate.
Yeah.
Fuller always shows up against us for some reason.
Well, he's a speed guy.
Just like Tate used to do with Detroit against us. He always shows up big against us. You didn't play the worst quarterback in the league by any stretch of the imagination.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good barometer, I think, for where this team is at week 1. And yes, I'm not ashamed to say we were lucky to get out of there with a win last night. And I'm glad to have it. But the hill only gets steeper because in 5 days on a short week, you got to play in the Coliseum.
Yeah. And the Rams didn't look that good in their win over the Carolina Panthers.
I think I watched a few different games on Sunday, and I watched the game on Sunday night.
I didn't. I turned that shit off about the second quarter. I saw where this game was going, and I turned it off.
Well, I did not really see any team that was just absolutely impressive to me. And that's up to and including our own. Now, Kamara had bursts last night, especially in the second half, where he looked like the mid-season form of Alvin Kamara.
Mm-hmm.
Breeze was the Breeze of old in the last 2 minutes. Ginn again showed up. I think he went over the century mark.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Um, and I've heard
Michael
a lot of
Thomas.
people today really ripping on Latavius Murray, and I don't understand that. Kamara did what he did, obviously, but if you look at the box score, it was like a couple of tenths difference in their average per carry between Murray and Kamara. And considering that most people say the New Orleans Saints running back core is Alvin Kamara and a couple of other guys, the, you if you could have gotten the odds on the first rushing touchdown of the season being scored by not Alvin Kamara or not Taysom Hill, I think you could have made a lot of money.
Well, that's the thing with the the thing with Latavius Murray. He only got 6 attempts, and I thought in the first half, part of the reason why they didn't look as good as they did in the second half was that lack of balance. We got very pass happy with good reason. The secondary of the Texans is worse than ours. It's hard for us to be objective as we watch this, but you look at you know Michael Thomas had over 100 yards received on 10 catches. Um, Alvin Kamara had 7 catches, and I think Ted Ginn had 7 as well, and he had over 100 yards. They were probably saying the same thing. Texan fans going, "Can you stop anybody? Is J.J. Watt even playing? I mean, can someone sack Breeze? Can someone touch Breeze? And so we get emotional about a game because we're only watching our guys,
Yeah,
and when their receiver makes a big play, we kind of overlook the fact that, yeah, our receiver making big plays in that defense too. So,
I think it's remarkable that well, you you take into consideration, I guess you would say. You look at the last time that we played Houston. I believe it was in Houston,
mhm,
um, and uh, the game that J.J. Watt had,
mhm,
and then I guess it was 4 short seasons later.
yep,
Here we are again, and that's the first time in his career that Watt was held for no sacks and no tackles.
yeah, he got an offer. He forced a holding call. That was about it. He was an offer, and yeah, in 2015, he was telling everybody, "You need a new tackle," because he abused poor Zach Strief. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
said I don't like doing this to Drew. I like Drew.
well, like I retweeted Catherine Terrell's thing where she talked about that game, and I said, be careful what you wish for there because we did get a new tackle and he shut you down.
Yeah,
And of course, Watt will not be shut down often, if at all. But again, that just shows that what happens those first couple of weeks is not a predictor of how these teams are going to be. We play this game, say week 12 in New Orleans, it's a totally different ball game. It's a completely
yeah,
different ball game. Not only do the Texans, the players that had the most trouble against us, and I'm thinking of Larry Tunsil, and the lack of involvement for Kenny Stills, only 3 plays, although 2 of them were for big plays. Um,
and the
you
other
would
one was a big one in the other direction.
right, exactly. You would get a much more lethal passing game probably, um, and I doubt you get 6 sacks if this game's played in week 12. But that's just the way the season goes. That's why it was so important to win that game when you did. I don't like playing the Rams this early. I'd rather play the Rams later on in the season. It bugs me a lot that we're playing them in week 2 because of that. I'd much rather be playing the 49ers or Indianapolis early in the season, Arizona early in the season. Get these guys healthy again and get our team kind of gel and develop their own identity. And that's where I was going with Latavius Murray. We didn't run him enough in the first half, and I think that's part of the reason why we were so off. It was too much of the Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara show. Jared Cook barely got involved in the game.
How many catches did he have last night?
2.
I only remember one.
Yeah, 2 of them. He got a big first down.
Yeah, that's the one I remember.
And then he had another one where he ran down the field after he caught it. But that was it. He was barely involved. He was coming in and out a lot. I know he's kind of recovering from an injury as well. So,
And not just that, he was a no-show for the entire preseason.
Yeah.
Slate of games.
Right. I mean, they worked in training camp together, he and Breeze, but not in game-like conditions. So, I think you're going to see more of him. Murray, I want to see more of his inside running. Today, I think I was talking to Patrick McDonald in one of the Saints groups, and he was talking about how frustrated he was that he has seen this too many times now. He saw what I mean is the secondary falling, the defense falling apart at the end of ball games. And he pointed out the Rams game, the playoff game. He pointed out the Vikings playoff game. He pointed out the Cleveland game from earlier in 2018. And he says it's the same kind of mistakes over and over and over again. Letting receivers get behind you. They just throw a ball up for grabs and the receiver just goes on a go route, and our guys look like, I didn't know this guy could run this fast. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
No safety help. Breakdowns across the board. And why and he also questioned Sean Payton's game clock management. Not snapping the ball too soon, not letting the clock go all the way down to 1 before getting, snapping the ball and handing it off for a running play. And I mentioned that I think one of the more underrated aspects of Deuce McAllister's 2006 season, and you think about the Eagles games, both the playoff game and the regular season game, where in the regular season we burned off 8.5 minutes, I think, of the fourth quarter to kick a field goal and win that game. And we almost did the same thing in the playoffs in the divisional round, but Reggie Bush fumbled. So we had a brief scare of 3 downs where they could have come back and won the game, but we got the ball back, and then Deuce ran it out. But one of the underrated factors of Deuce was the fact that he was patient enough. When he saw the hole, he was able to make himself skinny, fit through the hole, and then kind of leap forward. So his body lean was giving him an extra 2 yards. So he'd do that on first down. Now it's 2nd and 6. He'd do it on 2nd down. And now it's 3rd and 2. And on 3rd and 2, he'd do it again, and it's first down. And we don't see that right now. We're seeing first down, gain of 2. 2nd down, no gain or loss of 1. So now it's 3rd and 9, 3rd and 11. Are we going to be able to pick up 11 yards on that first down to get that first down to run the clock out and put an end to it? And we're not getting it. And it's been that way probably at least since 2011, 2012. I mean,
since Deuce left.
Yeah. So, Pierre Thomas used to do that, but Pierre Thomas did it more on screen passes, where he always fell forward. So I think that's one of the reasons why the running game, as good as it's gotten now over the past 3 seasons, it's not the running game that you need to close out a game, so your defense isn't put in that position.
If there's one thing that absolutely scares the hell out of me about this team, and I mean, it's been the same. You go back, I know the past 2 seasons, the teams that we should be settling the outcome earlier in the game, and then you look up with 6 minutes left of the ball game, and they're still hanging around in a position to make a run. This team has got to get better about finding that killer instinct and putting these teams away.
Yeah. And I think that comes from a physical running game when you have to win the game. When the entire stadium, everybody on the other sideline, everybody on your sideline, the announcers, the officials, everybody knows you got to run the football and you're still picking up 4 yards a carry.
Yeah.
That's what has to happen. And it just simply hasn't been there like it needs to be. And I think until we can do that, we're going to have these kind of games. We're going to be scared because your defense, the way the rules are written, and a team that just doesn't. What do we have to lose? Throw the ball up. Let's see what happens. Worst thing can happen: incompletion or interception. Best thing can happen: completion or pass interference call. We got all this yardage. That's a lot of stress on our defense, especially when you got to cover almost the entire length of the field. And you saw that last night again.
Yeah. And when you're playing a wild card quarterback
Yeah.
like Deshaun Watson,
Mhm.
you can't leave the outcome of the game hanging in the balance until the very end.
Right.
Last night could have just as easily gone the other way.
Oh, absolutely.
And I mean, how many times have we actually seen that happen?
Yeah.
I've told people all day, it felt good to finally be on the right side of one of these for a change.
My dad jokingly said, "Oh, it's a good thing they scored as fast as they did. They left us time." I mean, it's knowing the outcome. Yeah, that's a good thing it happened. But when it happened, you were not happy that it happened. It should never come to that point. But that's my wife and I both said when the Saints got the ball back, we need a good 5-minute drive for a touchdown. I want this to be a 2-score game. I do not want it to be a 1-score game. And it just didn't happen that way. And that's what frightens me going into Los Angeles, because now you're on the road. Los Angeles has just the deadlier receivers in their threesome with Cooper Kupp, our old friend Brandon Cooks, and Robert Woods. They've got a better tight end. They've got a better offensive line than the Texans have. So getting 6 sacks will be a lot harder to get on Jared Goff than it was Deshaun Watson. You don't have the advantage of the crowd screaming. So you can't have McVay coaching up Jared Goff as he does, till 15 seconds before the mic cuts off. You don't get to have all those advantages that you have playing in the Coliseum. So that's a lot of stress in your defense. We have to get this offense better. We have to do a ball control kind of offense where we just keep them on the sideline. We wear that defense out, which I think we can do. That defense, except for Aaron Donald, is not as good as it was last year. It's still good, but it's not as intimidating up front as it was this time last year.
Well, I mean, last night you saw what this offense is capable of doing when it faces one preeminent pass rusher.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, I would venture to say that at this point in his career, Aaron Donald is probably 3 times the player that J.J. Watt is.
Yeah, absolutely. absolutely. He doesn't have he doesn't have all the damage that Watt has to
Yeah.
his body. Um,
Yeah, I don't expect JJ Watt to be able to play for very much longer. And I just as easily could be wrong about that. But these past couple of seasons, he's taken significant injuries, and it's especially for the physicality of that position. It's just it's going to take its toll on him.
it's what basically ended Howie Long's career. He just could not bounce back from the leg injuries that he kept getting. Um, yeah, I forgot J.J. Watt's rookie year was 2011. That was probably one of the more exciting Saints Texans matchups from that year, and it seems like he's been there forever. And it's his eighth season now.
Yeah.
Jerry Porter says referees really hate the Saints. I don't know if they so much hate the Saints as we always end up with referees who just learned the rule book 20 minutes before kickoff. I mean,
Or they didn't learn the rule book before
yeah.
kickoff. Could you please explain to me
Oh,
just exactly how what they did was right?
it was right and it was wrong. Okay. All right. Here's the ruling. Under 2 minutes left in the game. If there's a timeout for any reason and you don't call it an official timeout, and it's something because you had to do for the offense, not the defense, but the offense. A team has an option of either accepting a 10-second runoff or burning one of their timeouts. That's just the way the rule was written because Buddy Ryan, back when he was a head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles and they were called the Phoenix Cardinals back then. But when he was the head coach of those two teams, he used to have his guys lay down on the field to give them an extra timeout, an injury timeout, when they were in a 2-minute offense, or to slow down a 2-minute offense if his defense was getting gashed and he was out of timeouts. So as a result, the league passed a rule: no matter what happens, this is the way it's got to go. There'll be a 10-second runoff, so you don't get that free timeout anymore. Now, here's what happened last night. On a third down, I think it was a 3rd and 11 or maybe a 3rd and 17 play, because I just rewatched it right before we went on the air. Drew Brees hit Michael Thomas for a first down. Well, we thought it could be a first down. The official ruled it a yard short. So the Saints hurried up to the line. There was 41 seconds when the official got the ball from Michael Thomas to go put it in play. The clock is running. It's a running clock. The Saints have one timeout left. 41 seconds, the Saints get the ball. They quick snap the Texans defense before they're set to get the first down on the quarterback sneak. They planned on spiking the ball and then, because they wanted to keep that timeout in their back pocket in case they needed a field goal. Now, upstairs, because it's within 2 minutes, upstairs does an official review to see if he got the first down. So they buzz the official on the field. He waves his arms and kills the clock and stops the play after the Saints already ran the quarterback sneak for a first down. So we went down from 41 seconds to 26 seconds left on the clock. It's an official review. ESPN, thankfully, had a marker camera right there. And we all got to see the incredible catch Michael Thomas did, where he caught the ball. And unlike the Hopkins play that was ruled he was a yard short, Thomas kept his entire body up in the air. Not his knee never touches the ground. He twists his body, puts the ball forward, then falls out of bounds. So the ball is where the spot is, not where his knee goes down, because he was already out of bounds by the time his knee came down. Does that make sense? Y'all
Yeah.
following? Okay. So the officials changed the ruling. It's now 1st and 10. The Saints play where they were going to go and do the quarterback sneak for the first down doesn't count. The problem we run into is the officials never reset the clock to 41 seconds. They left it at 26 seconds. This is huge because then they go to the Saints, even though the Saints didn't stop the clock. It was an official stoppage of the clock. They go to the Saints and say, either accept a 10-second runoff or you can use your last timeout to keep the clock at 26 seconds. It shouldn't have been that way. It should have been at 41 seconds. A 10-second runoff takes it to 31 seconds, and you could still run 2 plays or an entire drive, as we saw basically at the end of the game. You would have been able to get closer and probably get a better position for Lutz to kick that field goal if you needed him to kick that field goal. So that was the big mistake they did last night.
In other words, they were wrong.
Yes, and Al Rivian, head of the officials, immediately after the game, well, it's because the ESPN crew now has an official in the booth with them, and the official in the booth gave the same explanation. Al Rivian had to come out and say, hey, we screwed up. We screwed up the time. We screwed you out of what, 15, 16? And the kick he made was on the right hash mark. Kickers are funny about this. Some kickers prefer to kick off the right hash mark because they know how the ball is going to travel. And if you look at the kick right before the end of the first half, it's straight enough, and at the last second, it kind of hooks a little bit, so it goes just on the outside. What was that?
Traffic.
Ah, okay.
The booth where I'm doing the show from every week is right up next to the street.
Oh, as long as you're not under the overpass in a tent, we're all good.
No, that's when I'm away from work.
There we go. Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. We'll comment on sports for money.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So the ball kind of goes to the left and dies right there. So I think if the Saints had 2 opportunities, one to take a shot in the end zone, and then 2, I think they make a better completion within the field of play to get a good spot on the hash marks, and we at least kick that field goal. And then the end of the game, we're now up by 9 instead of 6. So it's a lot less stressful.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head earlier. I'm going to go through the expense of just going ahead and getting a defibrillator.
I tell you, yeah, because this game is going to be very emotional too.
Yes.
The Rams want to prove that they earned that trip to the Super Bowl. The Saints want to prove that, you didn't deserve to go. We deserve to go, and we're going to punish you for it. So it's going to be a very physical game. I'm really curious. Onyemata comes back. I know he's going to be in shape. I want to see if Mario Edwards comes back because they really need that rotation. A lot of people are ripping into Marcus Davenport's performance last night. I can't because I thought they had Davenport do a lot of things he doesn't normally do. Like, for example, they had him play a lot of 3 technique last night. I thought he tied up a lot of blockers for other people to get shots at. And I thought Larry Tunsil kind of used a little bit of the Mo Howard blocking scheme where he kept poking him in the eyes. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of times.
I thought I was the only one that saw that.
Aim out! We got to teach him to put the hand up between his nose.
I think it's worth noting, though, probably the surprise performance of the night would have been Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah. I think so too. I think he
and
really.
This goes right back to the point that we made a few weeks ago about how this season is going to have to see him step up in a major way for him to maintain his spot on this roster.
Yeah. Yeah, because here's the thing I think what Peyton would like to do. Um, I think Peyton wants to have a rotation of his pass rushers throughout the game. That way, he has fresh pass rushers at the end of a game. So you're less likely to have to use blitzes, as many blitzes, to generate a pass rush. I mean, we blitzed a lot last night. Um, I think that's what he wants to do, and I think Hendricks is part of that. I think when they go to that NASCAR package, or they go to a package where they're rushing people, um, have all pass rushers out there. They want somebody like a Hendrickson who's fresh to challenge an offensive tackle who's been blocking and getting beat up most of the night. Here comes a guy with fresh legs coming after you. I think that's a good thing. Um, Chad asked, I'm going to ask you this real quick because I know you got to go soon, Sean. Um, Chad asked the question, what do you think about the Saints, what they did on 3rd and 11 on the final drive they had before Houston got the ball back with 55 seconds left? They on 3rd and 11 they did basically a draw to Alvin Kamara, and they got about 6 yards. They weren't even close to the first down, and that's why we had to kick the field goal. What do you think about that play?
I don't agree with the play call if that's what you
Okay.
mean. I think that, and there again, you and I were messaging each other at that particular point in time. I think that they should have probably done some sort of play action to try to get Kamara out in space rather than handing the ball, because right then a first down would have ended the game uh, for all practical intents and purposes.
Yeah, yeah. Here's my thing with it. What was the big criticism the Saints got at the end of the Los Angeles Rams NFC Championship game? They should have run the ball more. Run the clock down. The danger when you put the ball in the air, especially on the 3rd and 11, is they're going to be at the sticks. They're going to be waiting for it. And if it's an incomplete pass, you cannot run the clock down because I think it was like a minute. I want to say a minute 40, maybe a minute 30 left on 3rd and 11. If it's an incomplete pass, you've just given them another extra 30 seconds or so if you don't get it. If you run the ball, they're out of timeouts. You can run the clock all the way down, as they did, to 55 seconds and then kick the field goal. So that's I don't disagree with that call. I think if you're going to throw the ball, you throw it on 2nd down, a high percentage throw that you're pretty much going to guarantee to get, like a quick slant. Um, I don't think you can do that on 3rd down. But again, that goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, as far as what Deuce McAllister gave us as a team in the running game that we did not get either from Alvin Kamara or, Latavius Murray, that ability to fall forward and pick up 4 yards basically when everyone knows you're going to run the ball. That way, you're not facing 3rd and 11, you're facing 3rd and 2.
I think, yeah, I get what you're saying. I really do. I guess it's just a matter of a difference of approaches. I think that this offense, the percentages of them picking up the first down through the air rather than running it up the middle would have been higher.
Well, especially when you look at how the Texans defended Drew Brees in that final drive. They gave them a ton of cushion.
Yeah, they played center field.
Yeah.
I could not understand that.
Well, neither could Booker McFarland. He was losing his mind.
I was sitting there thinking the same thing when he said that, because you give Drew that kind of room and he's going to pick you apart.
Yep, absolutely. And you saw, I mean, like you said too, Ted Ginn came to play that night. He didn't do much in the first half, but in the second half, he made a lot of key grabs.
He did.
And he didn't do anything really stupid. I was watching Detroit Arizona game, the end of that game, overtime, which ended up being a tie. They threw a pass. Detroit threw a pass to one of their receivers. He's all alone. All he needs to do is get out of bounds. They've got no timeouts left. He instead cuts to the middle and tries to go upfield to get more yardage. Well, you run out of time. You don't have the time for that. You've got to be aware of the situation, and that's the advantage of a guy like Ted Ginn Jr. Why you want to have a veteran receiver right there, because he knows the situation. He knows what he needs to do. So that's why you would go to him at key moments like that, like you go to a Michael Thomas at key moments like that.
Yeah.
But again, we have to be able to run the ball better when we need to run the ball to run the clock out, so we don't have these kind of endings. And I think that's the biggest takeaway from this game and the other games that we lost. You get a first down against the Vikings in 2017. There is no Minneapolis Miracle.
Exactly.
In the no call game, yeah, you had to throw the ball because you didn't really get much yardage on the running plays, but you able to control the clock on offense. You can run the clock out, and they never get a shot at getting a field goal to tie the ball game back up. So
yeah,
it's again.
I think the summary that you did in the groups today, where you used the analogy of the best of times, the worst of times, I think that that's pretty apt for this game, because to me it was basically the story of two halves.
Mm-hmm.
The first half, I didn't see the effort offensively. I didn't see the effort defensively, with a few exceptions. Obviously, there were a few good plays in that first half, but in the second half, you saw the defense start to play a little better. You saw the offense start to execute a little better. And the Houston Texans, whether they realized it or not, they did the very worst thing that they could have done in that situation when they decided, okay, we can turn this into a shootout. That doesn't favor the Texans at all, because you basically are gonna try to bomb with DeAndre Hopkins, and if that ain't open, you're just gonna punt. But the Saints have more weapons than you do for a shootout. You don't that's not going to favor you at all.
Yep, exactly. And I didn't think the Texans were going to play that kind of game. I think they felt like they had to.
With the lead that they had, even when that first drive, when the Saints came boom, boom, boom down the field and then put it in the end zone, all they had to do was just keep running that clock.
Yeah.
And if they had done that, the game would have not taken on the tone that it did, and they allowed New Orleans to get momentum. And
I think it's because they were really uncomfortable with they were uncomfortable with their running game. They saw how much pressure Watson was getting. They also looked at um, what plays broke that game open. If I said there was a turning point, at least for the Texans offense, it was the first big pass play out of their end zone to Fuller. And you got their offense going. They scored right after that play. That was the first drive. They really got something going. So yeah, they felt like they had to take big shots, get chunk plays to kind of get their team going, because if they just tried to run off tackle, throw safe throws, the Saints were going to kill them.
I'll be perfectly honest with you. I didn't think that the Texans would have nearly the success that they did on the ground last night, and I attribute that both to their team executing the way they did, and ours not. I was really surprised by that.
Well, one play was a perfect call against exactly what the Saints ran. The Saints ran a blitz, and they ran right into the blitz. So we overran the play, and there was nobody left behind them. So they got a big chunk yardage out of that. The touchdown run, I blame Davenport to an extent, but I also blame the linebackers, but he was kind of in a no man's land. Um, Deshaun Watson did a read option, faked the handoff to Carlos Hyde. So the entire Saints defense read that as an up the middle play. They collapsed, and so did Davenport. He saw that, collapsed inside. Well, that gave Watson the bootleg to the outside. They already had a tight end throwing the block downfield, and then it's an easy run into the end zone where he got hurt doing
Yeah,
the flip. But yeah, that I think that's where they were getting their runs that they got, the big runs they got. They called at the perfect time against that Saints defense.
yeah.
So,
So real quickly,
mhm.
what is the what are you looking for at the beginning of the Rams game? What are you looking for the Saints to do differently than they did this time? What are you expecting them to do?
On offense, I want to see them run the ball, commit to running that football a lot more, wear that defense out, keep that offense on the sidelines, keep that Rams offense on the sidelines. On defense, I want to hit Goff early and often. I want to disrupt his timing. I want to make him short arm a lot of passes because those receivers, if the secondary plays the way they played Sunday night, those receivers are going to make big plays against us, and it's going to become a shootout. Um, it's we've got, and when I say run the ball, it's more than just Alvin Kamara. We have to. I want to see more of an even split between Kamara and Murray. We cannot have the 12 carries for Kamara and 6 carries for Murray. You can't have it like that. You cannot make him a Tim Hightower. What makes Kamara so damn effective is you can have a running back like Ingram was in the backfield, and then Kamara can split out wide. Because I still don't think the Texans, not Texans, the Rams linebackers can cover that wheel route, and that wheel route's going to be there. Um, but you can't have Kamara running and catching a ton of passes, and that's our offense. You've got to get Murray involved. So,
Sure.
and on defense, I want to see more. I want to see those kind of hits and the sacks. I don't because Goff is not as mobile as Watson clearly. So if you keep him in the pocket and make him take a lot of shots, it helps your secondary.
Yeah, I want to see them bring back the remember me shot.
I'd like to see that too because I think McVay's game plan goes out the window if he gets hit a lot. If Goff gets hit a lot, because he's going to want to max protect. If that's the case, that takes guys out of the passing game. Um, he's going to want to run the ball a lot more. And I think running the ball straight out of our defense plays to our advantage, not bouncing them outside.
Well, once again, like I mentioned earlier, the the hill only, the road only goes uphill from here because you're not going to be playing Carlos Hyde. You're going to be playing Todd Gurley.
Yeah.
You're not going to be playing, maybe not individually, another receiver as talented as DeAndre Hopkins, but you're going to have three that are equally as talented as each other.
Absolutely.
So you're going to be facing a much bigger challenge defensively against the Rams than you were against the Texans.
That's why you have to wear Wade Phillips' defense out. You have to be able to run the ball on his defense because if you run the ball well against his defense, he doesn't know where to go because his whole defense is predicated on rushing the passer, turning the pass rush loose. He is not the kind of defense that can take a pounding because that's his whole thing is I'm shutting the run down. I'm gonna make you pass. Uh, and just like we talked about with Atlanta, the Rams' offense is predicated on the pass. We're going to be able to throw the ball on you, and then we have a better running back. So uh, this is going to be a tough one. If we get out of here with a win this Sunday, that sets us up very well for the rest of the season because I think the Rams are our number one threat. I'm not as worried about the Cowboys as a lot of people may be, but the Rams I do worry about.
I don't know, man. It's how very difficult it is for me to say anything good about the Cowboys.
Mhm.
But I'm going to tell you, they looked very, very impressive Sunday. That that was perhaps the best game that I've seen Dak Prescott play at quarterback since he was at Mississippi State.
Yeah,
He played out of his mind the other day. Of
yeah,
course, uh, you're not going to be playing the Giants every week for the next 16 weeks either.
right. I just look at Dak Prescott. How many times the Giants get to him? I don't think they touched him the whole game.
Yeah,
So that again, Prescott's one of those guys that if he starts to feel pressure, even if it's not really there, and we'll talk more about this as we play Dallas when we get to the week, Cowboys hate week. If Prescott starts to feel pressure, he kind of takes himself out of plays and he starts making some mistakes. And Cam Jordan really beat him up pretty good last time. So,
yeah,
I think we'll get to that. We'll see how these two games go.
yeah. And then we have that trip to Seattle as well.
Yeah, you got Seattle squeezed in between those two games. So yeah, it's there's no breaks in the NFL. We don't get to play Liberty University or North Texas State or New Mexico State or some school like that.
Yeah,
There are games that are winnable right now. Just me looking at the schedule, but that's not until late in the season. So
yeah. Well, unlike what you said earlier, how you said, if I understood it correctly, you said that you don't like you don't prefer to have such stiff tests at the beginning, and I do. I want to go ahead and get these difficult games out of the way where we can start hitting our stride, hitting our goals, trying to rotate our players in and out effectively to keep the maximum amount of them healthy. Um, I just, of course, I don't want the first month to be murderer's row, but that's just the luck of the draw.
yeah, yeah. I just yeah, I understand what you're saying. I just don't want to be in a hole that we're digging ourselves out of. The good thing is though we won the first game, so we're not in a hole yet. You know
Yeah,
that's important because I think part of the reason why we had 379 seasons from 2014 to 2016 was that we let ourselves get buried really quick, and then we spent the rest of
yeah.
the season just trying to get to 500. So
Well, I don't. If this season meets its expectation level, obviously we're going to have to play the Rams again,
yeah,
and we need to make it to where they have to come back to our house to
absolutely.
play.
That's why you have to take this one on the road.
Yeah.
All right, Sean. Well, I never pay the bills when we start this damn show, and I always forget. So why don't you do that real quick, and then we'll kind of wrap it up.
All right, man. We want to thank everyone for joining us tonight, sticking with us, enjoying a week one victory. How long has it been since we got to say that? I'll give you a hint. It hasn't been since we've been doing our show.
No, it predates this show.
We want to invite everyone to subscribe to our show on iTunes and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook and let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, what you want to see more of, what you want to hear less of. Reach out and talk to us. We love to hear from you guys. And with that, I'll send it back to my partner in crime, Mr. Alan Over.
Thank you, Sean. And yes, I do my good, bad, and ugly after every game. I did one last night. Boy, that was hard 'cause I'm watching replays of the game and as I'm writing this thing, so it took me a lot longer than it normally does. But yeah, comment on the good, bad, and ugly. What would you like us to talk about on the show? If you want me kind of go over that again on the show, I'll be glad to. It's something I've just been doing for fun for the past, golly, I think I've got them going all the way back to 2011. I don't think I did them in 2009, but because they come up my memories on Facebook. So I've been doing them for a while now. Um, so yeah, let me know what you think of those, and um, that's what we end up talking about on the show the following Tuesday. So in the meantime, let's beat the Rams. Let's go 2-0. Make a statement win out of Los Angeles. Put those guys a game behind us, and we're going to be staying out in California. We're not coming back to New Orleans after that Rams game. They're staying out in California to practice for the Seattle game, so they don't have to worry about the time change. So be an interesting 2 weeks. In the meantime, thank you guys. We'll see you next time on Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.